Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's special live broadcast with my very special guest, Tom Horn. I'm Steve Quayle. For the record, it's the 25th of June, 2010, and tonight we're going to be talking about transhumanism, also Singularity, and genetic Armageddon. Now, Tom Horn has written so many books, and he and I have done a series of interviews over the years that have gone viral worldwide. And tonight we're going to bring it up to speed and tell you how close all of these events, prophetic and technological, are close to coming to fruition and are being put into place. Hi, Tom.
Hey, Steve. Great to be back on the air with you again. We don't do it often enough.
Well, I can tell you this, that I think tonight is a watershed event, because tonight I want to pull out all stops, Tom. And the thing is, as you know, the majority of the people that listen to us have heard you and I, both independently and together, have been on your website, my website. But tonight let's talk about transhumanism first, and the second hour we'll go into wherever we're led. But let's, first of all, define transhumanism for people, because I find that, you know, too many times I know what I mean, but I'm personally not making it clear. So let's go with kind of in an orderly talking point fashion.
Oh, yeah. Well, sure. Transhumanism, just that international, intellectual, fast-growing cultural movement that's also now supported, of course, by people within the military, as we'll talk about later, and that intend to use what's called GRIN technologies, genetics, robotics, artificial intelligence, and nanotechnology, as tools to radically redesign mankind. Essentially, it's a movement that believes that we no longer have to wait on the daunting task of natural evolution to respond to its environment, that now we can take our own destiny, our fate, into our own hands, and we can, through technology, begin altering what it means to be a human and accelerate the pace of our next phase.
Well, yep, go ahead.
Well, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I was just going to say, Tom, from the beginning, the devil, the enemy of men's souls, has tried to wipe out the human race. And it's so telling and compelling that a lot of people that think prophecy was fulfilled 2,000 years ago have not been able to factor in or figure out that the technological advancements, coupled with what we would call fallen angel technology and knowledge, is now to the point where literally what the transhumanists are saying is God, and even if they acknowledge God, most don't, but some do, if God were real, then he made a mistake in making human, and now we're going to do it better than God. We're going to recreate this Homo noeticus, the new man, and bring it to fruition. And we're not going to mess around with all the design flaws of free will. We're just going to program these automatons. Is that kind of it in a nutshell?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. There is a prophetic angle to this. There is a wicked, antichrist, end times spirit that is the fulfillment of prophecy. It's pressing to come into the world now. Only he that now restraineth will restrain till he be taken out of the way. This is a presence that is waiting, really, for mankind to give over some level of permission or invitation, which I think is happening right now in two different ways. One is the forbidden technological side of it. Those who no longer fear God, they're now playing God and seeking entry, I think, for the spirit through science, whether they understand it as that or not. And then, unfortunately, Steve, the other side of it is those who are allowing this to happen simply by not opposing it or dialoguing about it, i.e. mostly the organized church, where the issues, the ethics, the bioethics, it's left to a handful of people like me and you right now that are out there, the watchmen on the wall. I guess it's always been that way, though, huh? When you have a prophetic spirit, you know, you stand up and you declare what's happening. And I can tell you that ever since the book Apollyon Rising came out, two different things that the whole world, as far as I know, that contacts me wants to talk about. One, in the earliest days when that book came out, was the year 2012 and the extra Mesoamerican cultures that fixated on it. You and I already did shows on that. In fact, you were the first one to do shows with me on that. And the second subject is this transhumanism, and how it appears, at least in my belief system, to be the billion-pound elephant that's standing in the middle of prophecy circles right now, that the lion's share of critical Christian thinkers don't seem to be recognizing, or very few of them are waking up to it. For instance, This year's H Plus Summit, Humanity Plus is another name for transhumanism, in case anybody in the audience doesn't know that, was hosted just by Harvard University Science Center in Cambridge, Massachusetts, ended just last week, June 13th, or a week and a half ago. This was a two-day event that explored how humanity is going to be radically changed by technology in the near future. And so you had speakers like Mr. Singularity himself, Ray Kurzweil, talking about how technology is going to be used soon to modify our bodies, our minds, our lives, our world. He was joined by scientists, philosophers, legal scholars, bioethicists, all who merged on campus to start educating the world, if you will, about how in recent years astonishing technological development is now pushing the frontier of humanity towards these far-reaching morphological transformations that are in the very near future going to redefine what it means to be a human. Now, I said a moment ago that the transhumanists are supported now by an equally impressive list of U.S. military advisors, bioethicists and law professors and academics who also now see the use of genetics, robotics, grand technologies as tools that are going to radically redesign what it means to be human, minds, physiology, offspring, and Steve, even perhaps as Joel Guru in his best-selling book Radical Evolution is now claiming, our very souls. And it's interesting now as you're following what's happening within transhumanist camps that it's taking on a very, very spiritual theme to it, even to the point that now many of them are talking about how they want to make contact with the other world. And maybe we can talk about that dimension of it later, but unfortunately for these utopians and for mankind, and maybe we can talk about that dimension of it later, but unfortunately for these utopians and for mankind, the cultural shift that's now underway, also according to some transhumanist writers, actually forecasts a future that's not only going to be dominated by a new species of unrecognizably superior humans, unfathomable war. And they're defining it as both physical and spiritual. And in fact, when you read their writings, it sounds very much like these agnostic transhumans are describing the end of the Bible. They're describing Armageddon. And this is something that I don't think, first of all, the majority of the world isn't even aware of how this is a new arms race now, but secondly, they're totally not prepared for what it implies and for what is coming. Let me make a statement about this war. This isn't just going to be fought on land, air, and sea, but it's going to be fought in dimensions that are not even yet comprehensible. Even now, there are synthetic forces that are going to plot, or already are, the wholesale annihilation of mankind. These are under design right now in leading laboratories, public and private, funded by the most advanced nations on earth, including the official governments of the United States, France, Britain, Austria, China, to name a few, who is a result of nanotechnology, neurotechnology, germline engineering, molecular scale engineering, and those various related fields of science. Any time now, believe, singularity is going to occur, and strong artificial intelligence, or what Hugo de Garis calls artilects, which is a word of his own making, it means artificial intellect, artilects, are going to emerge, and overnight we are going to have godlike, massively intelligent machines that are trillions of times faster and smarter than humans, and whose rise, according to Hugo de Garis, is going to prove profoundly disrupted to human culture, not just in the sense it's going to lead to a division between the philosophical and ideological and maybe even religious and political groups who either support this new form of life or oppose it, but he believes that it is going to emerge possibly as such a human threat that it is going to lead to the death of literally billions billions of Americans, of humans, before the end of the 21st century. And for people who...
That's true. And Tom, let me just interject this really quick, because Jesus said if the days weren't shortened for the elect's sake, there would be no flesh left alive. And I've been seeing a lot of interesting prophecies where the Lord himself is calling the return of the soulless ones, in other words, the ones without soul. And later in the show, we'll talk about, too, the reconstituting genetically of some of the most evil caricatures and characters in history. And I've tried to get across to people, look, when demons, and we'll talk about that, too, when demons are cast out of people, in essence, they look for a body. Jesus even taught about it. Look for a body to re-inhabit and reanimate. So I think it's fascinating that the hyperdimensional physics realm, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, what you know is reality and what the science, the black science, the hidden science knows of reality are two different things. And Tom, it's so hard sometimes to get it across to